Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife video for you today. I'm going to weigh in on something that's been a bit of a controversy on the YouTube knife world lately. And the only reason I'm weighing in is I don't think anybody involved did anything wrong. I'm not criticizing anybody, but I thought it was a good opportunity to give my philosophy on how I review things, because a lot of you guys don't know this. I'm pretty new to the knife review world. You obviously know that. But I've been reviewing products for 20 years. It's been my full-time job for 20 years. I've reviewed too many bicycles to count, too many electronic things to count, tons of camping gear. I even did a couple cars, and I've been paid to do it. It's been my professional job. So over the last 2 decades, I have gained, I've got a little philosophy of how I review things. And I think this is a good segue. I've been meaning to make a video to explain this to you guys anyway, and I think this is a good way to do that. So what happened? Pete from Cedric and Ada Outdoors and Gear, great channel. Please go watch it. He does edge retention tests that are just amazing. I don't know how he has the time to do it. He's one of the only guys on YouTube who puts out more videos than me, and mine are quick. His have to take a couple hours at least to do, probably another hour to edit, and he does an amazing job, and he's a damn handsome, charming Australian gentleman to boot. So go watch his videos. They are superb. But a couple weeks ago, he got in a steel wheel a steel wheel Modus, not in this version. This is the Chinese T2 version. He got the M390 Italian-made version, similar in construction to this cut jack and M390 made in Italy. And he did one of his usual cut tests with it, which involves edge retention test, which involves cutting entirely too much rope. And it did poorly. Very poorly. It was very bad. He was getting like 50 cuts, where some of these he gets like 350, 400 for M390. So it was a big deal. He tried everything he could, put multiple different edges on it. It still wasn't doing it. He said himself in the video at least 4 times, yeah, it's probably just a bad one. It's probably just they burned the edge grinding it, or it was a bad heat treat or whatever. And don't freak out, but this was I contacted Steel Will, and we'll see what they do. Everyone lost their tiny little minds. Everybody was saying things like, Steel Will selling fake M390, and it was a thing. And it wasn't just on YouTube. I saw it on message boards and stuff too. It was a thing. And because he's very reputable and he's very good at what he does, and a lot of people trust him, so when he got a bad one, they wigged out. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to link all the videos down below. You can watch the whole saga. The sequence is he did this, he did the, not this, but the M91, M391. He did that bad. He made one phone call to Steel Will during that, or maybe a couple, and he didn't like what they said. But then he did another follow-up with Steel Will's full response, which was very good. And then he did on a cut jack like this, almost identical to this knife, and it was fine. And then they sent him another Modus. Not going to give any spoilers, but all is right with the world again. That's all I'm going to say. But watch the videos if you want to see the whole saga unfold. But here's some things I saw from that saga that I think I can maybe give some insight to as a guy who's been doing this for 20 years. One problem and one thing people really jumped on was, and they thought was very shady, was he asked Steel Will, what factory do you make this in? And they said, we're not going to tell you that. It's made in Italy. That's all you need to know. We're not going to tell you the factory. Now, admittedly, some companies are very shady about where they make stuff, and they're not making them where they said they made them. But I can also tell you from my experience, reviewing stuff for a long time, I review a lot of bicycles. That's primarily what I do. And I've gotten to know the Taiwanese. A lot of them are made in Taiwan. Probably 90% of what I review is made in Taiwan. A lot of what is made in Taiwan, so I know the factories. I know which ones are the good ones, which ones are the bad ones. I've probably asked 100 times over the years, which factory is this made in? No one is ever going to tell you that. They just aren't. If you think that's shady, then that's up to you, but no one tells you that. Absolutely nobody. The only time you find out if what factory something's made in is if something goes wrong, like Foxconn. Everybody knows Apple stuff is made in Foxconn in China because stuff went wrong, and that's how you found out. Or if, for example, one of my friends who owns another bike company was over there getting his bikes made and took pictures and said, oh, here's a bunch of pictures of boxes from this other company. I guess we know they're made in the same factory as ours. Nobody tells anybody, and the factories aren't going to tell anybody. They're kind of sworn to secrecy. You're never going to find that out. But in this case, he did. So I'm kind of proving myself wrong. But Steel Will, to their credit, in their full response, did tell him, oh, it's made by Mazarin, which is a great company. So, that was great to know. But they're normally never going to tell you. It's just not something that's going to happen. So if you ask a company, hey, what exactly factory is this made, and they don't tell you, that's common practice. They don't tell you. It's a consider it, a trade secret. They almost never tell you. Just like sometimes it's really hard to nail down a company. How many of these do you make a year? How many do you sell a year? They're probably not going to tell you. Unless it's a limited edition, then they'll tell you. But even that might not be exactly right. Porsche. But yeah, so don't sweat it if a company says that. That's just how it works. You can not like it if you don't want to, but that's just how it goes. My other thing is Pete did almost exactly what I would have done. Here's my review philosophy if I get something really bad. I've done this with bicycles. I've done this with camping gear. Did it with a car once. It just wasn't right. I knew there was a manufacturing flaw with it. I give them a chance to fix it before I do the review. Now, I'm going to say I had to have it fixed in the review. Absolutely. I'm going to tell the people I had to have it fixed. But I give them a chance to fix it. Some people are giving Pete crap because the real Steel Will fans because, he should have waited till he got a second one before he did the review. Maybe. You can argue that. But he said multiple times, I think I just got a bad one. I'm waiting for their response. He was completely transparent about it. I'm not going to fault him for that. I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably would have waited to get the second one. But, that's his prerogative, and it's still a good data point to have. Also, if I get this is completely nothing related to that controversy, and I don't want to keep it related to that controversy. I just want to focus on my philosophies. Also, I remember one time I got a bicycle that just handled horribly. Did not like it. I knew some other people who did, and I knew nothing was wrong with it. It was just the way that they designed it. So I called the company. Didn't want to ambush them. I don't like to ambush people in reviews. I'll never do that. If I'm going to give a bad review, the company's going to know it's coming before it comes out. Doesn't mean that I'm going to change my mind, but I just let them know and give them a chance to give their side. So I called and said, this thing handles horribly. I think it's kind of dangerous at lower speeds. It's not good. And they sent a long email explaining they prioritize towards higher speeds and they understand it will be tricky at low speeds and blah, blah. And I quoted that, asked them, I said, hey, Czar, I'm going to quote that in the review. They said, okay, absolutely. And I did that. I lambasted it for really poor low speed handling, but I put the company's explanation of why it handles badly at low speed. And I put it in the review and everybody was fine. And I've reviewed stuff from them since and never had a problem and everything's fine. You can do that. I've also before, one time I put a very good friend of mine out of business. I knew he was operating on the edge anyway. He sent me a bike. It was just awful. Really hated it. I called him. I said, man, I don't like this. It's going to be a bad review. And he said, well, every time you review one of my bikes, I usually sell 10 or 12 because I've been a huge fan of his up to this point. I said, well, you just had one bad stinker. It happens to everybody. He goes, no, you know what? And he emailed me back like a couple weeks later and said, I'm closing the doors. Don't print the review. That's the only time I didn't print the review because he closed the company down before I could do the review. And I felt horrible about it. But you're just doing your job. When you're a reviewer, you're just doing your job. And if you're doing your job, sometimes stuff from people you really love are going to get bad reviews. And sometimes it's just a one-off and it's nothing. And they fix it and everything's fine. And that's what happened here. So please, everyone who's freaking out on the internet with conspiracy theories and stuff about Steel Will, take a step back from the ledge. Everything is freaking fine. Stop it. But, I had one quality issue with Steel Will with my mini cut jack, and I fixed it. It was something I could fix myself, so I didn't even bother with the warranty or anything. I don't know how their warranty department has never had to deal with it, but It was a minor little thing, and it was from one of the Chinese ones, not the Italy ones. This thing's been great. When I saw Pete's review, I did immediately whip out this and really hacked up enough cardboard to dull the blade. I put off some chores that I've been putting off for a long time and really dulled the blade. And then, I really cut acres and acres and acres and acres and acres of cardboard. And my garage, you can walk in my garage again now. And then I resharpened the blade. I'm like, nope, this is M390. I can tell by sharpening it. I can tell by how long the edge lasted. It's real. It's M390. Everything's fine. So I wasn't super worried about it. But I will admit, even I get caught up in it. I got caught up in this thing. I had a Modus with the carbon fiber handles on order. I was on the edge of canceling the pre-order because it was just taking a long time and financial things. And then I saw at an LTK's Love Them Knives video from SHOT Show that it's got a G10 backspacer, and I was like, it's a really expensive knife with a G10 backspacer. So I was kind of thinking, maybe I'm going to cancel it anyway. And then I saw his video, and I did cancel it. And I did reply there and say I was canceling it. So I added the fuel to the fire. Everyone's guilty of it. But when you read a reviewer's review, it's one data point. That's all it is. It's just one data point. That's why I sometimes review stuff that other people have already reviewed, because when I buy anything expensive, a high-priced knife, computer, camera equipment, if I bother to do read reviews, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I buy it and then read the reviews afterwards. I'm as guilty of that as anybody. But read or watch or whatever, more than one review. 4, 5, 6. That's why I don't think it's a waste of time for me to review stuff that's already been reviewed to death, because it's just another data point, and I think that's a nice thing to have. And that's all that Pete's review, or Pete's edge retention test of that Modus was one data point. Very important data point, but that's all it was. It's just one data point, and just keep that in mind. None of us are omniscient gods of knowing everything. Trust me, my wife reminds me every day, I don't know everything. I might be wrong, and it's fine to tell me I'm wrong. I don't mind. If you guys look at how I respond to comments, people say I'm wrong. I don't get wound up about it. Trust me, I have been insulted on the internet more than almost any human being in the history of mankind. I've had multiple death threats over bicycle reviews, and one over a car review, and one over a tent. Somebody threatened to kill me because I didn't like it, and they loved it. I am impervious, so don't worry about coming at me on the internet. It's fine. If you really piss me off, I just won't respond. I kind of let it slide off, but it took me a lot of years to get there. But I'm just saying, moral of the story is, reviews are one data point. Not good to ambush people with a bad review. I don't think that's what Pete did. That's not what I'm saying. Pete absolutely did not do that. He did call them and say, no problem, before he put the review up. So don't ambush people, and just chill out. Just chill out, guys. Just calm down when one thing goes bad for one guy. It's not the end of the world. There were a bunch of other very positive Modus reviews out before that, and everybody just kind of freaking ignored them, when that happened. So all is right with the world again. Now you guys if you've sat through this, I'm just using this story. I'm not trying to weigh in and give my opinion on how anybody acted. Pete acted fine. Steelwheel made it right. I'm not trying to talk about any one person. I'm just using this story as a backdrop to explain how I review things, what my review philosophy is. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this multi-chapter story, and kind of now have more of an idea of how I do things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.